What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to implement internationalization or i18n with the Vue i18n plugin. We'll also implement this language switcher in the process, which you can see here, and you can switch between languages. And it's already similar to the dropdown we've built right here in previous videos. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here's the app without anything implemented. I did add Vue router just so we have extra pages here, which we can translate as well. So I have 3 pages. I have the home page, which we've been working with, the about page, and the contact page. And in terms of structure, not much. Typical Vue router app. I just switched app. It still has the navigation here, but I didn't add this. This came with, when you do Vue add router, you just have to add a router view. So other components or other pages can get injected into here. Okay, so let's add Vue i18n. So here I am in the docs. And for installation, we can just npm install it. But if we have Vue CLI 3, you can just do this. And this will add some configuration for us. So we'll do it this way since we are using a Vue CLI 3 project. But if you're not, you can just do it using npm install. But we'll do it this way. And it asks some questions here. Just do the default for English here. Fallback English. Directory is locales, that's fine. And there's an option to have locale messages in single file components, but we'll just stick with the default of no. You can change that if you want later on. And here's everything that changed. So as you can see, it added a config here. It added locales for English. It added some stuff in the Vue config. And this is just some other stuff. Oh, I added a routers file too, a routes file. Or not added, just edited it. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here. So let's look at the config first. So it would be right here. And here's where it exports the Vue i18n instance. And in my experience, the environment variable, which was modified as well, if you go to .env, there's a section for the locale and the fallback locale if you want to change that by environment. But for some reason that wasn't working on my computer. So I'm just going to remove it. I think it's okay to just hard code it without environment variables. So I'm going to remove that. And I think it also changed our main.js where we have to import it. So there it is. And it's using it in here. Yeah, vue.use. Okay. So this method loads all of the JSON files needed for translations. Right now we only have English. And it makes it available in this messages key. So if you add another one, it will automatically be available here, which is great. And if you want, you can split it up into several files. But for our purposes, since it's just an example, I'll just leave it as en.json. And you can have multiple objects in here if you want. Like if you want to split it up into like the nav, the footer, and stuff like that, you can just have a nested object within here. Okay, so I'm going to add one more locale here, just so you can see the different languages and how to switch locales. So I'm going to add French. So the code is FR. And I'm just going to copy this. I should have just duplicated it. And message is going to be bonjour. And you have to make sure that for each locale, the structure is the same. If it's not, then it's just going to spit out the key. Okay, so let's see how to use this in our app. If you go to the docs, and if you go to message syntax, and if you scroll down here, here's what I was talking about just a second ago. You can have nested objects if you want. But if you want to just output the specific locale we're on, we just have to do this. So we have a message, so all we have to do, let's just put a paragraph in here. Let's go to the home page. So our home page is in home.vue. And I'm just going to put a paragraph tag. Just put it above this first thing. And we just have to do this. So T, I'm not sure what T stands for, but that's the method. Could be translation. But we just have to put the key in here. So our key is message. And this, our default is English, so it should render out the English message. And there it is. Now, if you want to switch to the other locales, I'll do it programmatically for now. If we go into our config, we can just change this, FR. And now it's French. Awesome. And let me add a nested object, just so you can see that. So I am going to go to here, and let's add a new one called nav, and this will be a nested object. And we can put all the nav related keys in here. So I'm going to put, say for example, for our nav, we have these, and we want to be able to translate these as well. So we'll have one for features, and this is English, so it's just features. And I think our CSS is uppercasing this, so it doesn't matter how you spell it. So I'm going to grab this and do it for French as well. Let me save that first. French, put it in here. And let's change this to, I'm just going to put FR for French because I don't know the translation. Now, if we use that, so again, let's go to home. Just gonna grab this. Let's go to our, I think it's in app. App is where our menu is, or sorry, our nav. Should be in a nav component, but I didn't put it in a nav component, but that's okay. Oh, actually, it's in our search component, not search. It's in our mega menu, because that's where the text is, right here. So this should work as well. Let's see. So it was nav.features. Does that work? Spelled it wrong. There you go. FR features. If you change it back to English, i18n, then it should render out features. Okay, so there you go. That's the basics of how i18n works for Vue, or for this plugin, and this is basically how it works for everything. You just have multiple JSON files and it switches between them, and you just have to define a bunch of keys. And you can imagine how many keys there will be if you have a real app. You just have to set a key for every section in your website, which can be quite large. So that's when splitting it up into separate files might be a good idea. Okay, but obviously you want to be able to switch between languages using the route or the router. So for English we want en, and for French we want fr. So let's go ahead and do that. So obviously our routes are going to change now. For example, for about, it's no longer going to be about, it's going to be en about or fr about. So we have to change our router. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to router.json. Router.js, sorry. So let's nest all of these current routes, so it'll be these three, in a parent route or a route param. So let's just do that, and let's put it on its own line. Okay, let me just re-indent this. That screw up the indentation, just for this one. And let's set up a path here. So it'll be path, and we'll name it lang for language. And it's going to be a route param, so we'll put a colon. And now all of these routes will be children. So children, it's going to be an array. And it will end here. After this one, I don't know why I highlighted it, but it should be like that. And indent that. And now this should work. Let's see. Okay, but if I go to anything, say en contact, That doesn't seem to work. I think if I remove the slash here, that should work. Okay, so to make it work, you have to add one more key here for the component, and it's just rendering out the router view. So this is just me Googling stuff and trying to figure it out, and here's what I came across. And now, again, don't forget, we removed the slashes. I'm not exactly sure why we have to remove it. And now this should render out. There it is, cool. And the same should work for the other pages as well. Okay, so right now this route param, it doesn't matter what this is actually, it'll still render. But we have to get the country code and change the locale from here. So to do that, we have to use route guards, which is similar to middleware. So let's go back to our code, and you can't put it in the router, but I'm going to put it in main.js right after here. So here is a route guard. I'm just going to paste it in, just save some time. And this is just the standard definition for it. And here, the language is taken from the URL params, or in this case, it's FR. And if there's none, it defaults to English. And here is where it sets the locale. So you grab i18n, you change the locale to whatever is in the URL param. And then you call next for it to continue. So now, if we go back to our main page is now at en. So right now it's English, but now if I change it to French, this should be the French translation. There we go, cool. Okay, you probably want to redirect here if there's nothing. Right now it's not responding to anything, so we can change that. So back to our router. So in our routes here, actually this one above here, let's just define a new object. And this one will respond to just the default slash. And it will redirect to /en. And this should be taken from the config. But let's just see if it works, and then we'll make it dynamic. Okay, it does. But this should be the config. So let's do that. Let's make it a template string. And this will be i18n.locale. And this usually is a global variable, but it's not defined yet when it goes into the router, so we have to import it. So import i18n from i18n. Okay, and this should still work. Let's try. Let me refresh just in case. So, just to drill this into your head, let's add some translations for the about and contact page. Actually, before we do that, you saw how this no longer responds to routes because we need the locale in here. So let's change that first. So my nav is an app.view. Like I said, it should be in a nav component, but whatever. So for our two pages here, we just have to add the locale. So these two. So we just have to make it dynamic. So we'll do this. We'll add a template string, and then we'll add i18n. So it'll be slash, and then we need a variable, slash about, and i18n, there is a global variable with i18n, $ i18n, which looks a bit weird with the other $ there, but that's okay. .locale. And let me grab this and put it for contact as well. Hopefully I did that right. Change it to contact. And for the home page up here, where is it? Right here. We want the same thing, but we want it to go just to slash. So just like that. Okay, let's see if this works. So that doesn't seem right. Okay, so now it is. Cool. So en about, en contact, and if I go here, it should go back to the home page. It does, but if I change it to French, it maintains the French. Okay, cool. So like I said, let's add some translations for these pages just to be clear about how to do translations. So let's add another nested object, and this time it's going to be called about. Let's just do it for one, for about. So everything in here will be within this about key. So we can name it about title, and that would just be about. And then about content, just duplicate this, and that would just be content. And just have some lorem text in here. Okay, lorem ipsum doesn't work in there. Let's grab this. Let's remove that. Let's grab this whole about and change it for French as well. Just add it here after the nav, and let's just add fr here. Okay. So now refresh. Oh, sorry, I have to add it in the about page. So here would be $T about dot title, and then here would be about text content, right? That's why I named it, right? Yes. And now this should work. So there it is for French, and for English that should still be the same. Awesome. Okay, so one thing you noticed is I had a link in here before. So what you can do, but you have to be careful, is you can still maintain that. If it's just basic HTML elements, like maybe a strong tag to make stuff bold, or maybe a link here and there. So I'm going to put a link around this. I don't think my emit's going to work, does it? Yeah, it does. Cool. So there's a link around this one, but if we render it out, oh man, so JSON is going to complain because that's not proper formatting. So let's just change this to single quotes. Okay. But it's not going to work because we're using the double curlies and that escapes everything. So you can change this in here, not to use this double curly syntax, but to use the VHTML directive. But you have to be careful when you're doing that, because if you're rendering out user-generated content, then that puts you at risk to cross-site scripting attacks. But if it's just coming from your own code base, in this case it is, because it's just translations, then it should be okay. In React, it's called dangerously set HTML, which I think is a better name because it puts you on high alert, but that's okay. I'm going to self-close this p tag. And now it is a link, you just can't see it. You just have to add some classes. Or you can set it in a base style. Let's just do class equals text blue. I think it was 500. So there it is. Cool. And if you look at the docs, there are more clever ways to template everything so you don't have to add a bunch of keys. Okay, now let's build this language switcher. So it's basically just like our drop down over here. Actually, let me fix this first. Where's this? Some drop down. Yeah, I think it's just the avatar. Yeah, just put a slash here. Should be fine. Okay. So let's quickly do this. I'm going to duplicate the drop down menu because it's basically the same thing. And you could probably reuse this and use something like scope slots, but I'm just going to do it this way. So let's call it language switcher .view. And we can leave all this stuff. Let's just use it in our app.view. So I'm going to put it right before the dropdown. So where's the dropdown? Here. Let's use that. Say language switcher. And use it down here. Language switcher. And here. Language switcher. Okay, now there should be two. Cool. Let's change it to just use a text based. So where is it? It's a language switcher instead of the avatar. So this is the SVG for the chevron down. We'll leave that. Just put span en in here. See how that looks. Okay. And we'll also put a flag there. And I already have the flag SVGs in here, as you can see. I put it in public. And I'm just going to use an image tag to make it easier for myself. You can inline it if you want. So I'm just going to do flag. Let's just put en SVG flag. Does it have to be slash? Okay. And that is covering everything. So let's just make it smaller. W8 H8. Cool. And let me just bump it over a bit. Let's put margin left on this. Okay, cool. And I should put a margin right on the entire thing as well. So back to app. Where is it? Here. I'll clean this up after, just to start. Okay. Actually, it's 8, so let's keep it consistent. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It's still the same as this. So if you look in the docs, there's actually a section here for a language switcher, locale changing. Right here, the example here. And they are using just a normal select, which you can use, but it's not as flexible as making our own. So let's just see what that looks like. So we'll go back into our language switcher. Just put it in here. See if it renders out where we can see. Okay, so this is the one. Okay, so let's just copy everything in there. We need this stuff. Actually, we just need the data, and that's it. So let's add that to our state. So let's just put it right here. Did I copy the whole data? I did. I just need this. Cool. And I'm going to put it right here. And we just need the languages. Okay. Right now they have Japanese and English. And for our case, we have English and French. So let's change that. And now, let's see if this renders. And it does. There you go. And it actually switches the locale. It doesn't update the URL, which we'll do in hours. But if I click this, then this should change to English. And it does. Cool. So one thing I want to show you, if you want to make this dynamic, you actually don't need this. There is a property on the i18 instance that lets you select all the available locales. So instead of langs, we can just do i18n dot available locales like this, and this should still work. But now it's dynamic in that if you add another JSON file here, this will automatically be updated, and you don't have to update this array here. And you can totally use that, but I'm not going to in our case. Okay, so instead of these rendering, we want our languages. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So we have this UL here, and this is the first case. And since there's only two, we want to keep the first one and the last one. Again, if this were a real app, I would use that available locales. But since I already have it implemented this way, so I'm commenting this one out because this is in the middle. And the stuff for keyboard accessibility it varies depending on if it's the first item, a middle item, or the last item. And since we only have two languages, I just want the first one and the last one. So where's the last one here? So that's the last one. Delete all these. And now we should only have two. Okay. So the first one, instead of the SVG, I'm going to put a flag in here. And this is going to be English. And let's put an image in here. So flag en.svg, say flag or English flag. And that should now be a large flag. Let's give it H8, W8. Okay, cool. This is a bit large, but I'll just leave it. I might tweak it in the final code. And we can do the same for the last one. So we can remove this. And we can add French. This one will be FR. Okay. Cool. So now we have our two languages. And we just have to set the locale. So we need an event listener. So on both of them. So let's do click.prevent equals, let's call a set locale method. And we need to pass in the current locale. So or for the current item. So in this case, it's French. And for English, it is en. So let's add it up here. En. And let's define that method. In our methods, let's put it down here. Set locale. Locale. Okay, so we just have to set the locale. So we can grab the global i18 object and just assign it to the variable that's being passed in. Okay, so now these two should work exactly the same. If I do this, it should be English. Oh, sorry, this should be locale. My bad. Try this again. Okay, so right now it's French. Click English. It's English. Click French. It's French. Awesome. So we obviously want the route to change as we click that. So we can do that as well. So we just have to add some code here. So this dot router dot push, and we want to push for the params. We just want to change the lang param. So lang is now locale. And that should switch the router. So right now it's French. And you see a change there. Cool. And I want this to hide too. So I believe there's a hide. Yeah, hide dropdown method. This dot hide dropdown. Cool. So right now it's French, English, French. Awesome. And we want this to be dynamic as well. So let's change that. So up here. So let me get rid of this. Don't need this now. And we just have to make this dynamic. And let's change this to a template string. And we just need to make sure that we have the image corresponding to the flag. So make sure you have these defined or actual SVGs in the public folder, and it should be good. So again, it's i18n.local.svg. Cool. And this is now going to be i18n.local.to uppercase. And that should now be dynamic. So we have French, English, cool. So there you have it, guys. We've managed to take a look at the i18n Vue plugin to have multiple languages on your Vue site. As you can see, it's not too difficult. Just a few changes on the router, and you just have to define all your keys in the languages you have. If you're using Nuxt, there's also a Nuxt i18n plugin, which is built upon this plugin. And I actually think it's easier to use because you don't have to mess with all the routing. It just works out of the box, just like how Nuxt routing works. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.